First of all, I should introduce myself. My name is Mike Duffy, Councillor Mike Duffy. I'm newly appointed to, as we all are, as chairs of different committees here at City Hall, newly appointed to Planning Board. I'm part of the Recycle program. I was a member of Planning Board back in the 90s, so I'm not new. I'm just recycled, but I'm kind of, I guess, 20 years behind the times now, so I've got a lot of catching up to do. So there's nothing like being baptism under fire. So we're, let's start with something big, and this is fairly big, so we'll move on. Declaration of conflict of interest. Having none, we'll move on to approval of the agenda. Do I have a mover and a seconder for the approval of the agenda? Moved by Julie McCabe. Seconded by who?
Bobby.
Bobby Kenny. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Passed 6-0. 6-0? Yep. Second item of the agenda, of course, is the adoption of the minutes of Planning Board of October the 5th, 2020. All those in favor? Do I have a mover? Mayor Brown. Seconder, Councillor Yankoff. All those in favor? All those opposed? Passed 6-0. 6-0. Pardon? Business arising from the minutes. Is there any business arising? Being none, we'll move on to the one and only order of the day, and that being the Tim Hortons drive-through on Maypoint Road. I'd ask Mr. Forbes to take the issue and present it to the members of the committee. Mr. Forbes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is an application that's got quite a long history. We've been working with the developer for some time on this particular application. I'm going to give you sort of a high-level overview. There's a whole, since the committees have changed, some of the other board members were familiar with this, but a number of you aren't. So I'll try to be as clear as I can in regard to where this started, where it's been moving along the way. But we do have an opportunity to, I think Scott Adams is on the call today, as well as the consultant that did a peer review for a drive-through at that location on Maypoint Road. The property in question is owned by a company out of Moncton called Cordova. There's two people on the line from Cordova who've been working with us, and that's Eric DeYoung from Cordova, as well as Robert Smith, that's also working and facilitating some of the paperwork here on behalf of Cordova. So this goes way back to 2016. The property was formerly owned by the Tweedies. They wanted to subdivide this property. At the very same time they wanted to subdivide, the province was putting in their new roundabout. Everyone knew there would be a sensitivity to any street connections, either to Capitol Drive or to Maypoint Road. So this whole thing got kicked off with a preliminary study done in November of 2016 that laid out all of the access points to Mr. Murphy's Hotel, which is in behind. There's a 60-foot right-of-way off of Maypoint Road. Then that study indicated that the primary access for the Cordova development was an access point off of Maypoint. And then at the as you go around the corner and go down Capitol Drive, there was a right-in, right-out that you could sort of get back into the Cordova property, or you could get access to the adjacent property. So the Cordova purchased the property. They had a development proposal for the property. There's a number of things happening on that property. There's a gas station, food outlet, convenience store, car wash, and 12 fueling stations, and a restaurant at that location. So it's a busy spot for traffic, just in regard to those land uses. But in the zoning bylaw, it indicates if you're going to have a drive-through, it needs a special review by the city with regard to ensuring that the queuing lane on the property for the drive-through isn't going to interfere with both internal traffic on the site, but more particularly, it's not going to compound issues off of the property as people start to queue to get into the property, and we don't want it interfering with the adjacent road network. So So what had happened was that we issued permits for most of the development. The Tim Hortons small area that's in that property, I think it's about 600 or 800 square feet. It's not a large walk-in location for obvious reasons, but it was intended to be utilized as a drive-through. And so the Cordova went back to the original consultant, which was Don Good from EXP out of Fredericton, who had done the original study to set up all of these access points, to review their queuing, which is the queuing that goes into as you queue to get into the drive-through, to make sure that it could be accommodated effectively on site. It would not interfere with the road network. So he worked in tandem at that time with the province. When you're doing traffic counts, you usually don't reinvent the wheel. If the city had recent traffic counts in front of that property, he would have used them. If the province had recent traffic counts, they would have used them, or he would have done his own if there were no traffic counts. So there were traffic counts. The province had just recently done traffic counts at that location. And so Mr. Good utilized that data to prepare his analysis of how the drive-through would work. And he had indicated if you hit these certain traffic thresholds, additional measures will have to be kicked in. So this application went to planning board some time ago, 2019, in August, and Mr. Good's report basically indicated that it could be accommodated, but if the warrant, they're called warrants, the amount of traffic in front of the store increased significantly, it may require some street improvements. At that time, there was some concern by the board members that Mr. Good's report had indicated there was no queuing in front of the primary access. Some of the local, both councillors and some people on the board questioned that because they had seen queuing. As a result of that, we had a peer review, and a peer review is we hired another independent traffic consultant. They're out of St. John, Crandall Engineering. Ryan Eskelgar was the engineer that was asked to review this, and Ryan is here on the call. And Ryan looked at it, and as a part of his review, he determined one of the issues in the traffic report, specifically for the drive-through, was that the traffic counts were low, and it was determined they were low because the information that was provided to Mr. Good from the province, on one of the key days that they did their traffic count, it was a holiday. I think it was August 5th then. So, as a result, the numbers were off a little bit, and so those numbers were redone, and Mr. Eskelgar revamped the study. And then what that did is that as those traffic counts numbers increased, he leveraged some of the recommendations in the original study that indicated if the numbers in front of this commercial business hit this certain threshold, some significant traffic improvements, which means providing some road work will have to occur. And the key component of that was that there's a right turning lane as you come out of the primary access on Maypoint Road. And this right turning lane was put in so that it could diffuse traffic leaving either the Tim Hortons or any of the other uses on that site. They could loop around, they could get back down to Capitol Drive and not have to enter the roundabout, which is very close to the entrance of this site. So that's really all of the background. I'm going to ask Ryan to just give an overview of, hit the highlights of his report that he provided for us in November of 2019. And again, he doesn't have to go over again if he feels it's necessary to indicate why the numbers were a little bit lower there. He can speak to that. But they were reviewed, they were updated, and then he provided his professional opinion in regard to how this how this property could work more effectively in handling the traffic that was predicted and observed using cameras there to validate exactly the traffic flow. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Ryan. And Ryan, if you could just again give a sort of a high-level overview of the right turn lane. The right turn lane is estimated at somewhere around $120,000. That's up to the applicant to pay for that. If it's more, they're going to have to pay for it. If it's less, they'll have to pay for it. That's their requirement. So with that, I'll hand it over to Ryan, and he's got the schematic up there, which is in your report, but it's a little bit better in with regard to showing exactly where that right turn movement is. So with that, Ryan, I will hand it over to you, and if you could just update people, that would be great. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Alex. So I guess you guys can see my screen here now?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, so as Alex said, just over a year ago, we were asked to review the report that had been done by EXP. And basically, the main thing that we noticed was that the counts that were used for the most recent report were traffic count was done on natal day, which was August 5th. And we compared the volumes that were counted with other, I think we'd gotten a bunch of data from 2018, and generally we noticed that the traffic volumes on natal day in 2018, the morning and peak, the morning and evening peak period volumes were about 25% lower than they are on a typical weekday. So that was the main conclusion from our peer review, was that just the data that was used didn't represent a typical weekday situation. So in reviewing the EXP study, like we agreed with the trip rates that were used. We also agreed that there was sufficient storage space on site to accommodate the drive-through. As you can see here, there's, I think, room for about, I think if you count the extra space back here, there's about 19 or 20 vehicles that can be accommodated on site, and that's consistent with a lot of the Tim Hortons restaurants that we have, certainly in New Brunswick, and I believe in PEI as well. So yeah, the main thing really was that the study there was no issues with what was done in the study. It's just that the data that was used was taken, unfortunately, on a day that didn't represent typical traffic volumes. So we reviewed some video that was provided to us by the province, and it showed that in the morning peak, traffic backed up to around the corner here a couple times, but I think it was 5 to 6 times in the morning. So it did queue back past the entrance to the development, but it only queued back for about 30 seconds at a time. So it was a pretty short time that was blocked. And then in the evening, it was around 5:30, I believe, there was a long queue that developed way back to here, and that lasted for about 2 minutes. It was kind of a rolling queue where you get it basically backs up quickly, and then vehicles start to kind of flow through. And that, as I said, lasted for around 2 minutes. So we did some modeling with the new count that was completed. I think it was in September last year that we got an updated count, and the volumes were higher than what had been used in the previous study. And our modeling suggested that at times the volumes will, or the traffic will back up past the entrance, which makes sense because that's what we were seeing already. But again, we wouldn't expect the queues when they do back up to last more than a few minutes at a time. And in terms of the development traffic, with this being a Tim Hortons, the morning peak is certainly a busier time. It's a busier time for people coming and going into the development than the evening is. So I guess when you're talking about traffic overall, in the morning you've got a higher demand for vehicles coming in here and turning left. But in the evening is when we saw the most queuing. So that's a good thing because the morning traffic entering the development, the peak was kind of at a different time than the peak that we were seeing on Maypoint Road. So that was another thing to point out, I guess, is that, generally the issues, a lot of the issues with Tim Hortons developments and that similar developments are the morning peak periods, but we were seeing more queuing on Maypoint Road in the evening. So we concluded that we had created this concept trying to show what the roundabout would look like with the right turn lane added. And so we thought that this would be an appropriate improvement now. And then there's always going to be things that happen here. You could have an accident out here. Traffic might back up for 5 or 10 minutes. So there's no guarantees, in traffic engineering. So if in the future, it did become more of an issue that you were getting more congestion at the entrance, this would be another option. You could just show some pavement markings here, and there'd be a sign you would have to add. It would be similar to, this is done in Moncton. This is in front of a fire station. So they've got a sign here that says emergency access, keep clear. So obviously in this situation, it wouldn't be an emergency access. You would just put a sign up saying do not block driveway. So that was another thing that could be considered. One thing I will point out with this, though, is that this type of thing could set a precedent, in that if you did this here, you might have other developers saying, oh, we want that for our development as well. It's easy to defend in this situation in Moncton because it's a fire station. So the city would say, well, we're only doing it at, for fire stations. So that would just be another thing to consider in this situation. But I think you could probably provide a pretty good reason if this was to happen, as to why it's happening here, just being, close to this roundabout with all the congestion that's happening. So that's pretty much concludes, I guess, the work that we did on this. And I'd certainly be happy to answer any other questions if anyone has any specific questions they'd like to discuss.
The floor is open, folks. Anybody have anything to add? Any concerns, any suggestions, any observations?
Mr. Chair, I have a question for Ryan.
Mayor Brown?
Sure.
Ryan, looking at your schematic drawing, Capitol Drive, there is a right in, right out there by the Hampton, right?
Down here.
Yeah, right where you got your hand. Yep. So could that be used as an exit and an entrance? Or at least an exit, right?
So are you referring to an exit where people would be able to turn left?
No, turn right on and go into Charlottetown. Go right into,
Yeah, I mean, there would be no issues with that, having a right in or right out. You would keep the median here. And I'm not sure, has that been added?
Well, that's already exposed. It's open there now.
Yep. Yeah, and I think if I remember correctly, there's a lot more going on to the right of the drawing here. That would probably serve more people that are going to the other developments, or obviously people maybe leaving Tim Hortons that might want to turn right.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. And Mr. Chair, if I just could ask Mr. Forbes, Alex Forbes, this started back in 2016. This issue.
Well, 2016 was just the subdivision which created the lot which Cordova purchased. So Cordova's been working on this project for some time. They came in with all of the other land uses that are there for some time, but the one permit we couldn't issue was for the drive-through because of the bylaw. One other thing that I would like to point out to you that so that right turn lane is, if this were to be approved, that's up to council, but they could require the right turn lane, which is estimated at $120,000. That's their responsibility. But just recently, Ryan was asked to look at, it's in the report, if all of these measures didn't work, was there, could we go to another phase to indicate that, how do we fix this road network if it becomes problematic? So Ryan did provide another enhanced version of what could happen out front as you're entering into the roundabout. That was another $80,000, which the Cordova agreed to reluctantly, but agreed to do if the traffic was being compromised and the entrance into the roundabout. Unfortunately, the province did not want to reconfigure their roundabout, so that option, which was in your report, was dropped off the table. But I just thought I wanted to point out to you that Cordova has been working with the city for some time. They're just trying to find a solution that that they can reasonably manage to pay for in regard to the right turn lane. They were prepared to go to another $80,000 investment if the road network didn't work. That proposal has been taken off the table because of the province. So again, and then the other thing too is that what Cordova has agreed to do, if when we put in the right turn lane and the cross-hatching, if it's still problematic, in the development agreement, they have also agreed to close that entire access, and they would be forced to utilize the primary access into the DP Murphy into the hotel, which is, you can see it on the site plan there where it says right of way. So again, that would provide more ability for cars to not sort of back up traffic into the roundabout. And so they've been relatively accommodating as much as they can be, and to run their primary business, because there's about 5 other businesses on that property, but they've been trying to work with us to find a solution. So I just thought I'd point those things out. Whatever this committee decides, if it is some level of an approval, there'll be a development agreement that will lay out in detail exactly what happens, what needs to happen first. If that doesn't work, what happens second, that's outlined again in your planning report. So just thought I'd clarify those points. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome.
I have a question, Mike, or Councillor Duffy.
Yeah, Councillor
McCabe.
Go ahead.
For sure. So in reading the report, I do have some concerns with the fact that the province traffic engineers are not prepared to support any of these options. I'm concerned that we're talking about cross-hatching, I think is the fancy term, with lights when we can't see the cross-hatching in winter, because I just know traffic studies measure, queuing and speed and what else, delay and travel time, but they don't measure human behavior. And unfortunately here in Charlottetown, we know that people aren't necessarily good rule followers when it comes to obeying traffic indicators. So, I'm looking at this and as Councillor of the ward spoke prior to, who lives there, who travels this road, and there are a lot of concerns with that. I guess for the traffic engineer, were you ever there to look at the site specifically?
We were not on site, no. We were provided with video of basically what was going on along Maypoint Road. But we did not personally visit the site here.
Thank you.
Chair. Oh.
Sorry, Councillor.
Councillor Yankoff?
Yes, thank you. So I have a couple of questions, but I'll just start with this one for now. So how many of the cars looking to enter the roundabout off of Maypoint will actually use the right lane? Because according to the traffic study, the overwhelming amount of traffic that's queuing isn't going right. So I'm just wondering, how can that proposal be for that right lane be actually a solution? And I don't know who can answer that. Perhaps maybe Ryan could answer that.
I can speak to that a little bit. I don't have the count right in front of me, but you're correct. In the evening, so the queuing along here is more of a concern in the evening, and there is more traffic turning left and heading westbound here than right turn traffic. So you're correct in that assessment. So I guess the answer is that the right lane will help. There are some vehicles that are going right, but yeah, there's still more traffic that's going to be trying to go left or going straight. So there will be more traffic in this left lane here. And I guess if you were constructing the roundabout solely to accommodate the traffic volumes, it would be better to have a left turn lane, a separate left turn lane, and then a shared through right, which I believe, Alex, you were referring to this drawing earlier, right? Our other
Correct.
concept.
Correct, yeah.
So, yeah, to answer your question, this would be the better solution, but this requires a lot more work. You'd need to reconfigure the 2 splitter islands, and there'd be some modifications to the center island here as well. So,
And I don't think the province is willing, are they, Mr. Forbes, to start monkeying around with the roundabout itself?
Clearly, just because there's a jurisdictional issue here, they are the authority having a responsibility for the roundabout. They did review this proposal and they rejected it. They did not want to, they didn't get into great detail, but they weren't willing to support this proposal for that roundabout, and I'm sure they have their reasons, but as a result, we took that off the table. But I thought I would just point that out, that the applicant, or Cordova, has been willing to try to work with us if indeed that it's a problem. But I think everybody's trying to do the right thing to make sure that if it is approved, that it is not going to compromise traffic. There isn't some expenses to the developer to provide these options, notwithstanding the only option that's available or supported by the province and Mr. Adams is the right turn lane and the cross hatching and the closing of that access point. Those are what's on the table in the event that it's deemed that the traffic is either increasing there through natural traffic. I mean, it may not be related to the Tim Hortons, but there's traffic that's more traffic going through that section of Maypoint Road. So, again, people want to ensure that whatever the solution is, that we have tools in the toolbox, which would be in the development agreement, that hopefully ensure that the road network adjacent to this primary access to their development is not compounding problems for the traveling public that go through here on a daily basis.
Councillor McCabe?
Yeah, just another follow-up to that, and maybe Scott, I think Scott's on. Where else in the city do we have this cross-hatching?
We do have one location in front of the police station right now. We put that in about two years ago now, and they have not had a single issue since we have installed it. They say the drivers in the area have been respectful of it, stopping
Is that
short.
on Allen Street or on Nassau Street?
It's on Kirkwood, yes, right in front of just that driveway to the front main entrance of their facility.
Okay. And I guess, and this is where I'd be concerned again, because I drive that every day and I've never ever noticed it. So I don't know. I think when people are waiting at the light, they still block it, probably. Just guessing. I don't know. I'm just concerned with why. Do we know why what's the reasoning why the province have rejected both proposals, Alex?
I think it's likely, and I can't speak on their behalf. I think it's just a matter of it would involve a redesign of their roundabout, and I suspect, and I'm reluctant to speak on their behalf, but I just think that their feeling is that they would prefer not to get into modifications. It's a relatively new piece of infrastructure, and they would just prefer to leave it the way it is. People are accustomed to the way that it's working now, but again, the real they didn't provide a technical rationale. They just said that they were not prepared to support this option, and this option was in the event that all of the other things, the right turn lane didn't work, the cross hatching didn't work, the closing of the driveway across the front of the property didn't work, and then this would be the last tool in the toolbox to hopefully ensure things would be improved in regard to traffic circulation in that area, but they indicated that they weren't prepared to support it.
And I guess that is concerning, considering this is the highway that they're responsible for. This is their roundabout. We're looking at taking this on as a city with one other cross hatching in the city in front of the police station, and knowing that this can be problematic as far as traffic. I find that roundabout's not a good roundabout without extra laneage, without I'm just worried about and who's going to be responsible? So who shuts this down when it doesn't work? And who then what do you do if and when this doesn't pan out the way it's projected to?
I think Councillor McCabe, they did go over a bit of a plan of Plan B, so to speak, if it turns out to be not effective, and that's to channel use the other roadway into the Hampton Inn area as the feed into the Tim Hortons area.
So why are we doing their Plan B at the same time so that we know that there isn't going to be a problem? That's why aren't
Plan B exists there, whether there's going to be a problem with Tim Hortons or not. I think, Ryan, that's true, eh?
Yeah, you're referring to this entrance here?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Where?
my understanding is this is there. So both of these entrances will be there, but obviously, I guess the intent is that people going to the hotel might use this, but anyone going to this development will be coming in and out of here.
Yeah.
So yeah, the option would be available there to close this, and that would force everyone to come in through here.
And the queue to do that, I think, is an excessive amount of time when people are queued out here, causing a problem back up into the roundabout. Correct? Like 5 or 6 minutes of a queue out on a public right of way.
Yeah, I mean, it would be tricky to, I guess, establish exactly what the threshold is, but yeah, it wouldn't justify. I don't think you would justify or be justifiable to close this. You know, if you get there's 30 seconds or 1 minute every couple weeks where this is an issue. If it became like an ongoing thing where it was happening, a couple times a week for, even if it was 10 or 15 minutes, but if it happened regularly every week, that might be when you would want to start considering some other mitigation measures.
Something like they're experiencing down at the other corner with the Tim Hortons down there, where they're trying to get out in a busy time, trying to get back out on the North River Road, especially if you're turning left to head back out, head north onto the Lower Malpeque Road. I mean, you could rot there between quarter to 8 and 9:30, really. So
if you don't mind, Councillor or Chair, I'd like to, if I can add some things.
More than welcome, Mr. Adams. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I guess a couple of things that I just want to reiterate with folks, and I think Ryan touched on a few of them here. We're looking at a very small window during the day when it's a concern, and it's the EM peak. And I think some people do get bogged down with the long lineups, but when you look at the traffic, the long lineups, they can occur onto Maypoint, but they are moving. That's kind of the difference between a roundabout and a signalized intersection. Roundabouts, there is still movement at the approaches because one car or two cars get released into the roundabout, and so there's some movement. So those gaps are going to happen more often, or people will be able to make that left turn into that facility much easier than you look at the other intersection that Councillor Duffy alluded to. North River and Capitol Drive, where people stop at the red stop or at the when you have the red light, and everyone queues behind them. Well, I believe it's 120 seconds, or no, sorry, 110 seconds. It is. If you just hit that red light, you got 120 seconds until you get your next green light.
Yeah.
So compared to this, so that is a big concern down there. Where down here, like I say. With those gaps, and Ryan could even support me, I guess, on this one. I think we're going to see more gapping or more times where cars are slowly creeping up. There's still movement, so they have that option or ability to leave those gaps open and let vehicles in there. So that's one thing. And we also have to look at the fact that there is a Tim Hortons about 500 meters or less nearby. Typically, when we look at developments like this, a Tim Hortons or something, there's usually not a similar business nearby. There's not the exact same business that close by. So that kind of throws not a wrench into the thing, but when you evaluate the traffic, but there's a little bit of thought that's got to go into it. People that are used to going to that Tim Hortons down on Capitol, on North River Road at the intersection at North River and Capitol, some of those individuals are going to come here now. So we're potentially helping a problem down there, mitigating some of that impact at that intersection. And when you put a new facility like a Tim Hortons in a location where there's never been a Tim Hortons for miles, everyone's going to be starting coming to that one. But now we have two within 500 meters. So if someone knows that it's inconvenient to get that Tim Hortons this time, we'll go to the other one, or vice versa. They're very close by, so it's not it's not everyone's going to be flocking to this Tim Hortons. They're going to choose between this one or the one down the road. So that does change things up as well. So those 2 points, a few points for everyone to make everyone aware of that.
Yeah. Just 1 point, Mr. Chair.
Sorry, Mayor Brown. I had Councillor Yankoff here, but then I missed her. So good. Can we go to her first and then you? Okay.
Go ahead.
Councillor Yankoff.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. So, if this is approved, and we're 6-7 months down the road, and things have escalated that these fixes haven't really fixed the queuing problem, then who's paying the bill to fix who then is going to be paying to fix the problem once it's already established and the business is in play, does this then put anything on the city's bill? I'm not sure who can answer that question.
I'll take a stab at that, Mr. Chairman. So, I guess the discussion here today and whatever transpires at council is that whatever we feel or you feel is going to make you comfortable enough to approve this has got to be in that development agreement. So, in that if somehow there is a problem that extends beyond the development agreement, then it falls back to the municipality or the province to correct the roadway or fix the roadway. But what we're discussing here today is what can we include in the development agreement to protect the public interest to ensure that problem or problems do not occur in the future. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You, Mayor Brown, you want to speak?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Scott Adams, you spoke about the Queen's Arms controlled intersection. Yeah,
Right,
there are two issues down there. There's the left in going into Tim Hortons when the traffic is going out west on Capitol Drive, and then there's the left turn into McDonald's at the Esso. So that's a whole, that intersection down there has a double whammy issue, one with McDonald's left in and one with Tim Hortons. If we go to this one here, Scott, where we have the roundabout, the flow of traffic coming from Maypoint into the roundabout, maybe Ryan or you can answer. Do we know the traffic count coming from south of Maypoint into that traffic circle? Because they would be the ones most affected by the left turning into the Tim Hortons. Am I correct in saying that, Ryan or Scott? You see?
Yeah,
Yeah, so your traffic coming up the Maypoint Road, there are developments down there. There's the Beach Grove seniors home. There's a number of vehicles that try to avoid the Queen's Arms intersection. They'll come up Beach Grove up to Maypoint and get into the roundabout to head out west to Cornwall. Do we have numbers, have you zeroed into the numbers coming off the Maypoint into the controlled or into the roundabout?
Yeah, we've got we have a count that has the number of traffic that's coming up from south on Maypoint.
Is it more significant than what's coming from Cornwall going west to east?
I don't think so.
No.
But I guess what I was going to point out, though, is that if you're concerned about whether this would impact the delay for people on Maypoint, I think, was that your question?
No. My question is that the traffic coming from west to east, coming into the roundabout, right, that go around to get their coffee or bagel, whatever, have to turn left into the Tim Hortons. The traffic that will be most affected by getting that, allowing that left turn in, is the traffic that would be coming up from the Maypoint Road. Those are the numbers I think are not as high as the numbers coming in from Cornwall and area. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Mayor, maybe I can chime in. Are you talking, so if someone's coming from Capitol Drive from the North River Road entrance and they want to get to Tim Hortons, is that what is that my understanding?
No, we all declared that, Scott, that situation of Queen's Arms, there's a left into Tim Hortons and there's a left into McDonald's.
Right, yeah.
Every morning's a big problem down there because of the volume of traffic coming in from Cornwall, right?
Yeah.
And the traffic from North River going north. Mm-hmm. But in this roundabout at the Hampton Inn, you have a vast majority of your traffic is going west-east, right? Coming from Cornwall. They're going into the roundabout. And then if they want to get a coffee, they have to go down further and make the turn. So the traffic that would be most inhibiting any of those left turns is that Maypoint traffic coming up into the roundabout. And I don't think the numbers are that great coming from the Maypoint Road into the traffic circle.
Definitely not in the morning, no. Not in the morning at all.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, the morning is very low volumes coming up Maypoint. So it's not the concern time period at all. It should, I think, if I remember correctly, it was a very good service level in that area in that morning. It's really just the PM peak, the people coming up Maypoint to get out towards Cornwall or Upton Road. That's where we have a little more traffic, and traffic does queue up a bit there at that intersection.
And just the last point, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
As you know, and I'm sure Ryan knows and all of us know, that in the morning, the vast amount of traffic that's coming into that roundabout is going west to east from Cornwall and west. So when they get into that roundabout and they want to queue in to get a copy, my view is that the Maypoint traffic will not mitigate or cause a lot of backlog on the traffic coming from Cornwall into the roundabout. So I think, to me, that would be a lesser problem than what we have down there at that Queen's Arms intersection. That Queen's Arms intersection is some mornings, mostly during the day, all day long. It's a left in into Tim Hortons, a left into McDonald's. It's always backing up every direction. So I think this is a better solution. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Excuse me for 1 second. Bobby Kennedy, you still on the line? Chris, are you still on the line? I'm afraid we lost our quorum, and I don't know when we lost quorum.
No, Chris is there.
Yeah, but Bobby, I need both of them. All I have, ever since the map went up, that took away my view on the world.
Bobby's
Stop
on the
sharing
line.
this if you'd like.
Bobby's
Yeah,
Bobby's
I think
just
Bobby-
plumber.
Bobby went for a cup of tea.
But we have a bigger quorum.
We do have Basil in the line as well, so I think we have one more person to join. So I think we should be good. We have quorum.
Oh, Councillor Rivard's there too.
I don't see.
There's
Councillor
Bobby.
Yankoff has a-
Hi, Bobby.
Okay.
Hi, Bobby.
Councillor Yankoff, thank you. Councillor Yankoff?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Duffy, Chair. I just keep returning to my biggest concern in all this conversation today. I just keep circling back to that. The province is not in support of this. And so if somebody can assist me to get my head around how we can go forward when we don't have the support from the province. If anyone out there, maybe Mr. Forbes, can enlighten me on that. Thank you.
I don't think the province is not in support. They're not in support of monkeying around, the city monkeying around with their round. I think they're in support of the adaptations down at the entrance, down at the hash marks, so to speak. I'm not sure on that, but I stand to be corrected. Maybe Councillor or maybe Mr. Forbes is the one to comment.
Mr. Chair, you are correct. I mean, the province has looked at the right turn option. It's $120,000 upgrade there to put in that right turn lane. That they're aware of the hatching that would occur there. They know about the closure. What they weren't prepared to do was to go, if that all didn't work, there was another option, another $80,000 option that would have required a reconfiguration of the traffic lanes heading into the roundabout and require improvements, physical improvements to the roundabout. That's what they've indicated that they were not prepared to support. It's that very last option. It's in the report, but Cordova had agreed to that if it did get to that point, they were prepared to make those improvements. But that option has been taken off the table because the province doesn't want to reconfigure their roundabout.
Okay, Chris, Bobby, Chris or Bobby, you have any comment or any questions, concerns? You okay, Chris?
Yeah, no, I'm good with everything. I'm just kind of taking it all in here.
Okay, Bob?
It's Basil here, Mike, Councillor Duffy.
Basil. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I guess one comment that I have, if the plan doesn't work and we were to block off the entrance on the Maypoint side, where the current entrance is now, and only had the entrance and exit off of Capitol Drive, I think what would happen is that there is a back entrance behind the service station, that the traffic would end up going back behind there, or it's the entrance into the Hampton. So that if we block that front one, then there still maybe would come around and come in the back way as if they were coming to the Hampton, but then go into the service station and to the Tim Hortons.
I think that's the plan, isn't it, Brian?
Mr. Chair, just to clarify, I mean, if they were utilizing the hotel right-of-way only, they could both, enter and exit from that. There wouldn't be. We're not preventing them from exiting from there. But again, what it's doing is it's clearing traffic away from the proximity to the roundabout and preventing the opportunity for people to either queue or block their entrance. So, and then you can get from the Cordova property. You can utilize that right turn out onto Capitol Drive. They have the ability to do that. But I just thought I'd clarify that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Before we progress further, I'd like to mention at this time, before we go on, I have received a letter, as we all the elected people have this morning, from the former chair of this committee, Councillor Rivard. He would like that letter to be kind of entered into as a part of an addendum to the minutes of this meeting. He, of course, is considered a member of the general public since his appointment to another committee, so he's off this committee. So with the permission of the planning board, I would, does anybody have a problem with that? I don't think we can deal with, and some of the issues that Mr. Councillor Rivard has pointed out are, those crosswalks that are up in and around the roundabout. So, and we know the province is fairly sensitive on monkeying around up there. So I will hopefully be adding those minutes so that the resident members and anyone else at this meeting will have a copy of those for their file. So without any objection, I'll continue on as though I have your permission. Anyone else? Councillor Yankoff. You're always beating Mayor Brown by about...
No, I was just agreeing.
12
I
seconds.
agree.
Go ahead, Councillor Yankoff.
Thank you, Chair Duffy. Pardon me if anyone's frustrated with my questions. I'm not a traffic engineer, so, I will have to ask a few of these questions to get my head around this. Can somebody answer for me? All of the ideas that are being put out there today, are we doing it all to make sure that it's going to be safe? Or are we starting with some, and if that doesn't work, then we're going back and doing more? I'm just not clear with that, and I know somebody's talking about we'll put it all in a development agreement. I just have a hard time getting my head around that we can go to the next level until we actually see the development agreement. So, and I don't know who can answer that question for me, but I'll leave it. I'll throw it out there to the universe. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, the requirements are laid out in the planning report as to how the development agreement is being proposed to work. I mean, the council can, or in this board can add anything to that or subtract anything to that. But the roadmap for how the right turn lane would be immediate, the cross hatching's immediate. If it's determined that that's still problematic, that there's a formula in the development agreement, that be cameras put there to clearly indicate that driveway access is creating a problem, that would force the closure of the primary access into that development, funnel all the traffic through the DP Murphy development, and Mr. Adams and the city would have to agree and sign off on how that revised entrance and into the property, the Cordova property, from that right-of-way would work.
Thank you, Mr. Forbes. Mayor Brown?
Mr. Chair, I was just agreeing with you that we accept the letter, but I noticed that Councillor Rivard is part of our discussion. Could we allow him to speak to the issue, or do you just want to leave it to his letter?
I'll just leave it to his letter because I checked the first of the week if it was permissible, and he's treated more as a member of the general public sitting, observing this meeting in the open session. So unfortunately, I gave that a shot, and it didn't come through for me. So I think Councillor Rivard will be pleased that his objections, his suggestions, and his issues will be a part of the minutes, so they'll be there for all to see.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Forbes, would this development agreement be ready for council meeting the night of November the 2nd to go to council, the general meeting of monthly meeting of council on what that would make it the 9th?
We usually don't have a development agreement because it's kind of a fluent thing. The development agreement is just a bunch of details, but the high level direction, like
yes.
When the council says we want this, we want landscaping, we want whatever, we deal with the details. Yes. But for the most part, the roadmap is fairly clear in there, which has been reviewed by the Cordova, who have agreed to the language that's in there. So, but again, I mean, if you wish to add more to it, that's up to yourselves. Yeah. And again, you could do that from the floor of council on Monday. Just indicate that that you've read over the report. You agree with these certain parts, but maybe you want some additional parts. All you need to do is just telegraph at council, with a vote with your colleagues that we want this and whatever else you would like done, and we will ensure that it is reflected in the development agreement.
Okay. Councillor Yankoff?
Thank you. My final question. I had asked this question earlier on, and I didn't get a clear answer. If none of these fixes end up working, and we have to kind of go back and have another look at it, who pays for that then? Maybe I did get an answer, but it wasn't clear to me. I apologize if someone had already answered that. Who then is responsible for paying for the future improvements if this queuing doesn't work? Thank you.
Mr. Chair, it's Alex. So yes. If it's not a requirement in the development agreement, it would be up to the city in conjunction with the province to improve or to do whatever they thought was appropriate there. But the key thing is that it's got to be reflected in the development agreement. This is a unique circumstance. So development agreements are rarely. There's only a small percentage of properties in the entire city that are subject to a development agreement. This is a unique project with a number of traffic implications, and the intent is for you folks as politicians, once it goes to council and this board, is to try to ensure that that your questions are answered and you have determined that you do not feel that there will be problems after the development agreement is implemented. That you should be comfortable with whatever is in that development agreement is going to respond to the concerns that you have, deal with traffic, and not impact negatively the traffic circulating through that area.
Thank you. Councillor McCabe?
Just follow up to that is, well, and that's great. So you had said before the development agreement, could be the province, could be the city. We probably should have some sort of support in writing or some sort of collaboration to say, because the only thing that is indicated in the report is that the province was not in approval of anything. So before we can go to doing a development agreement saying that the province is going to be responsible for future work that would be required, wouldn't it be important to have something to indicate that they are actually on board with this plan?
Mr. Chair, again, and maybe it's my lack of clarity. The province is on board with the right turn lane and the cross hatching, but it's the city, not the developer. We were asking for some of the same questions that you're asking. If that did not work, what additional measures could be put into place? So I don't want to confuse things. This was the original sort of proposal, right turn lane. Then we added the cross hatching. Then we were going to add this third component, which was widening the lanes into the right of way. That just came recently. That came out of a deferral of the planning board, I think in August. And Mr. Asligar was asked to look at if all of these things didn't work, what would be the next proposal to ensure that the traffic wasn't impacted. That's the only thing the province is not on board on, because it actually involves, entering the roundabout and reconfiguring the roundabout.
Correct.
Councillor Mayor Brown?
Mr. Chair, the province owns the roundabout. I think it's been clear that the roundabout is their responsibility. On how we intersect with that roundabout into Tim Hortons or the service station, that's what we're discussing now. And we did do a peer review on it, and Mr. Esgler did complete it. This process started back in 2016. Mr. Chair, could I ask, does this require maybe looking at a public consultation, just to put the plan out there and have the residents of that area or the whole city look at this as a proactive move, or do you want to leave the process in place where it doesn't require a public consultation?
Mr. Chair, it's Alex. I mean, just in regard to how the zoning bylaw is set up, this type of review is set up in the zoning bylaw. It does not require a consultation, and the reason for that, it's highly technical. I mean, it's, we've got a couple of engineers on this call that we typically don't even have on this call, and even for myself, I'm relying on the technical expertise of these engineers. So that's the reason we're trying to ensure, through their assistance, Mr. Adams, Mr. Asligar's professional expertise, that we're going to achieve that. But it's ultimately up to this board and the council as to whether you feel that is sufficient, those proposed methods to deal with any kind of issues that are going to be generated from the drive-through at that location. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So, Mr. Chair, just in response, yes. I thought, I was with the mindset that it wasn't required in our bylaw, but we know what the Queen's Arms intersection is like. Left into Tim Hortons, left into McDonald's, most of the days, or mostly during the day, it's a disruption. I think just looking at mitigating any of the issues that residents may have concerns about, and I listened to Mr. Esgler, is it? Esligar, his presentation, and I get a better understanding. I'm not a traffic engineer, I'm a teacher by background, but I think that Alex, knowledge is power, so if we're able to provide a form to get that information out and bring it down to grade 6, grade 8 language, as Councillor Yankoff talks about, I think we'll be better off.
But again, I would just caution you, you've got a bylaw, and the developer is adhering to what their requirements are, and there's been like a 2-year delay on this. So again, I mean, I'm here as a staff person, but your bylaw, the city's bylaw, the one that we adhere to, doesn't require that, and as such, I would be reluctant to advise you to do that. But notwithstanding, I am a staff person, and I would defer to the council as to ultimately how they want to deal with this. But again, we could I could look into that before it's dealt with at council as to the implications if you wanted to request going to public consultation, and how it would impact the fairness to all parties as the way it is outlined in the bylaw as to what needs to occur. And the applicant, Cordova, has adhered to all of the city's requirements thus far.
Yeah. Alex, please don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm just, again, public consultation on something like this, I'm sure we'll have positive and negatives, but I think what I've heard and how long I've been involved in the process since last year when I did ask for the peer review and we voted on it, is that I'm learning more, and I'm starting to understand that this proposal from Cordova, the name of the company is
Cordova.
Cordova will be, I think, has made it quite clear to me that it will work. But I think that if you want to get a buy-in from your residents, you extend an invitation for them to look at it too. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Bobby, were you in the queue there? Bobby? Did you have something to say? No? You're muted there. How about Robert Smith? People keep popping up here, so they want to speak. Robert?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else?
I do have one thing to. Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And it's in regards to Councillor Yankov's question about if it doesn't work. We've always had this working relationship with the province, and I think Alex alluded to it earlier. You know, they don't like to mess with infrastructure that's new and is working quite well unless they absolutely have to. And when push comes to shove, we've been able to negotiate agreements with the province to make changes. So at the end of the day, their answer is they're not in support of it. It's not a hard no, but it's not in support of it. But it's when push comes to shove, and if it was a significant issue and it was backing up traffic in the roundabout, they would look for changes. So I think that is something to keep in mind too. Yeah. And we could always word it into the development agreement or the final agreement with Cordova somewhere, somehow, or something of that nature. But that is something to keep in mind. If traffic is going back up into that roundabout, it's not only city residents are going to be complaining, people trying to get to Cornwall, people trying to get to the bypass. It's only impacting their infrastructure as well. So it's dominoes, right? It's a chain reaction. Here. So the province is not going to want to see that. So at the end of the day, their reluctance today will likely change to a, yes, let's get this upgraded and make some changes. And so then the question comes, how does that get paid for? Who determines who pays for what? And that is, you know, up to council kind of what they want to see in this development agreement. But keep in mind too, you got to have some timelines of how long are we going to wait to see if this impacts that roundabout. Original plan was 5 years, and the reason why 5 years, there's a lot that can happen in 5 years. Just natural increase in traffic volumes it could significantly increase. We don't know. From other and there could be other developments in the area. You know, there's more property on Beach Grove down by the home. There's constantly new buildings being built down there lately. So there's lots of other factors that can play into this, not just one property. So there's a lot of things that can come into play here. So I guess, yeah, it's not just this property that's going to generate traffic increases year over year. It's going to be other issues as well. So those are just some things to keep in mind. Going forward, as you guys make up as council and committee, as you make up your decision, make your final decision.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Councillor McCabe.
And I know it's unprecedented setting, Alex, but I kind of agree with Philip. The more we can gather information and share information, Councillor Yankov and I were just saying, you know, there's not many drive-throughs that are done right in the city of Charlottetown. It would be nice if we had this one maybe done right the first time. To prevent any of what we're talking about. It'd be lovely if it just worked out perfectly. I'm just not convinced yet.
And as the chair on the other side of the coin, like I see the whole issue is very technical and high level. I don't like that. We do have public meetings, but a great many of them have to do with neighborhoods and vested interests that people have in their property. That's why we ensure that people are notified within 100 meters of the goings on in their neighborhood, because they have invested in their home and they should be aware. But this is kind of a common public saying, so to speak. I don't know what value added. I always like to listen to the people, but what value added to this sort of setup after all the work that's gone into it?
I know.
Can the person add to the discussion? Right. It'll just lag it. I mean, drinking coffee will probably be out of style by the time we get this in or whatever. Anyway, I'm willing to listen to all sides.
I agree.
Let's go for motion, Councillor McCabe.
No, I just want to follow up to your point. Is I agree. I think it is very technical, but I think that's the point. I'm not disagreeing with anything that Elsiger has put in the report. I think it's a great report. That I'm not disagreeing. I'm not a traffic engineer. That was great traffic engineer report. I'm talking about human behavior on PEI in Charlottetown in particular, and I don't see that the two connect in my experience. Based on my thoughts, and I guess I just want more information. I'm just not comfortable right now with this. So,
well, let's put the public meeting on the floor. Do we have a mover? Pardon?
I'll move it.
Moved by Councillor McCabe, second. Anybody seconded?
That's fine. Take it off.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry, thank.
Who's moved the resolution?
I was just supporting the mayor's original thought.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to second it.
Okay.
No. Excuse me. Wait. Could I just clarify the resolution that's you put on the table, Mr. Chair?
Sure. Go ahead.
What's the resolution? Is it to go to a public consultation?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
And it's moved by Councillor Councillor McCabe?
Apparently so, yes.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Yeah. And could I speak to it?
Yeah, I'll just read the motion. That moved by Councillor McCabe, second by Mayor Brown, that this issue, for the lack of a better term, Tim Hortons drive-through on Maypoint Road, be referred to a public consultation. All those in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. Discussion?
Could I?
Mayor Brown.
Does the mover want to speak first?
Councillor McCabe.
No, I just think it's just more information gathering. I mean, this is a big project. I think it's a great idea, but I'm not comfortable with everything right now.
Okay.
And
Mr. Brown.
Mr. Chair, the purpose or my reason for proposing this public consultation is to get the information out there. As I look at the Google map that I have in front of me, the traffic coming west-east from Cornwall into Charlottetown, there are 2 lanes that go into the roundabout. So that right lane could be the lane definitely going into to get their coffee, but traffic will continue to go on the inside lane into Charlottetown or up the Upton Road. And I think this is information that I'm just learning as I keep looking at the maps that I have, the maps that were presented by Crandall, and also listening to our engineer, public works engineer, Mr. Scott Adams. So again, it's just getting the information out there. Let's get this one right. And I think what we've done to this point is getting it right.
Okay.
So I second the resolution.
Councillor Yankoff?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Duffy. Mr. Adams had a really super good point. And when he mentioned that, when we were talking about, future development of the road for safety and such with future development. So all the more reason for us to really look at it, that perhaps this is something that the city has to put some dollars into for future planning, because we know that more of that is going to be developed. So we could actually just get it right at the same time, and not necessarily on Cordova's dime, but perhaps with the city assisting to ensure that it's done properly. Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak? Okay. We're ready for the vote. All those in favor of the resolution? All those opposed? Basil, are you there?
Yes, I vote in favor.
Pardon?
I vote in favor.
Oh, you voted in favor? Okay. Bobby, Chris? Are you for or against, Chris?
I'll probably go against.
Okay. I believe that's 4-2. How can 4-2? Do we have 6 yet?
Yes.
I have Alana and Julie, the mayor, and Basil 4, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
And I have Bobby and Chris opposed.
Right.
Right? So the motion passes 4-2. So there'll be a public meeting. Okay. That would pretty well conclude any business we have, I think, unless anyone has anything else to add at this point in time.
I think the public meeting will help us with develop a good development agreement too. So we'll gather lots of great information there.
Okay.
And Mr. Chair, I just want to thank Ryan, Scott.
Yes.
I don't know who Alan broke up. Is Alan with, is he with the developer?
Sorry about that. Yeah, I joined a little late there. I had some audio trouble. Yeah, I'm senior transportation engineer for Crandall.
Oh, good,
I'm
okay.
a roundabout specialist as well.
Oh, good, perfect.
So I was planning to acknowledge Eric and Ryan and Alan. Thank you very much for tuning in, and any help you were to the situation. We'll move on. Anything other? Do I have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Councillor McCabe, seconded by Councillor Yankoff, that we are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great weekend. Stay safe.
Thank you, folks.
Thanks, Mike.